We are in the Slab Lab with none other than National League Rookie of the Year mountain of a man is my friend Paul.
He struck him out.
The hype around him has really swept the country.
Please welcome to the show, Paul Skenes, everybody.
Paul Skenes starts the All-Star.
And Rookie of the Year winner is Paul Skenes.
Strikes him out with 100.
There has been a lot of talk about what you bring to the table. Since the first moment you stepped onto the mound, eyeballs all across the game were enthralled with what we could be seeing, what you were going to present us with. And my friend, you talk about living up to the billing. You have done that and more. What I want to get into is how this machine operates, because it's one thing to go out there and produce at the level that you do. It's another thing to give folks insight as to how we get cranking, how we get going. With your arsenal, you have the ability to absolutely overpower and undress the competition. Is there a way that you prepare, whether it's paying attention to what you need to do or your opponent's strengths, that sort of starts the preparation for you?
Yeah, in terms of, scouting and game planning and that kind of thing, there's a lot of stuff that we have to do, obviously on our end. There are just going to be days, unfortunately, there are going to be days where you don't have four-seam shape or command or whatever, sinker, shape, command, whatever, go down the list. You don't really find that until you get into the game, so that's kind of one of the things you have to adjust with. On the hitter side, it's stupid to not prepare in some capacity. I have backed off a lot in my scouting since I was in college and getting into pro ball and that kind of thing, just because I've learned it doesn't change as much as you think it does. Okay. In terms of how you go about pitching. And you have, 32 or 35 or 40 or however many starts in a year. Mm-hmm. And at some point you got to kind of back off and find some consistency in your preparation. So, yeah, I would say it's probably about 70% my stuff versus 30% their weaknesses, basically.
Struck him out with a breaking ball. Skenes versus Judge. My goodness.
As far as the data goes, are there data points that you find more valuable than others? Are there data points that you are, I don't want to say married to, but when it comes to really evaluating your success or your efficiency on any given workday, are there points that you really lock in on?
Yeah, in terms of my process, my results and that kind of thing, first pitch strike, 2 out of the first 3, there's people quantify it differently. Mm-hmm. 2 out of the first 3, I call it early and ahead.
Yep, the A-B charts.
On or out in the first 3. Mm-hmm. Ideally, that's another way of saying it. Those are important, and then if you do that, because I found that last year, we get a sheet it after the game and that kind of thing, and it has our, strikeout percent of how often we get to 2 strikes, we're striking somebody out.
Put a guy away.
And I found that on the better games that I pitched, my, put away rate was lower than the worst games that I pitched, because, and I quantify it a little bit differently, I think, than most people. But if you get to 2 strikes 20 times throughout the game and you punch out 11, then your put away rate is like 55%. Mm-hmm. So, which is not as good as 70%. But if you get to 2 strike counts 10 times and you only punch out 7, it's a better game. So. Sure. Those are some little things. The first pitch and the 2 out of the first 3 are like the really big ones. Yeah, there are some other ones, strikes with any, or pitch strike zone percentage. Sure. Mm-hmm. With each pitch, that kind of stuff, little things like that too.
You're tinkering, you're toying, you're constantly tinkering, toying. You've got a couple new toys that you're flirting with today. Can you give us a look under the hood on what the pitch grips look like and what we're looking to accomplish and why this conversation happened when we're talking about pitch manipulation and developing new pitches?
Yeah, I was expecting a lot more struggle, to be honest, in the off season with developing these new pitches, but it was kind of just picked up a ball and threw it, and I was like, all right, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So
sounds fun. Yeah, sounds fun to be able to do that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I picked up a ball a bunch of different ways, and I'm like, this be a good cutter, that would be whatever, and I'm like, maybe this is a good one to try. and I tried it, and it was pretty much what I wanted. And so now we're just figuring out, get it in the zone, figure out the lane, where we can extend it to, extend it off, extend it down, that kind of thing. And that's pretty much what we're trying to accomplish with the cutter in spring training.
So spiking the cutter, and what it sounds like is you're trying to get to a level of comfort with pitching with this pitch, not just throwing this pitch. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I repped it out enough in the off season. I've got the shape pretty dialed in. As we go through the season, we're going to have differences in shapes and that kind of thing, but it's pretty consistent right now. From outing to outing. So now it's just a matter of figuring out how hitters react to it and getting it in the zone and little stuff like that.
He struck him out! How do you like this show, Pittsburgh?
When you see a guy step into the box, is there an evaluation of his setup? Is there an evaluation that maybe has occurred watching him intermittently on deck? What are you looking at? What are you evaluating, if anything, when it comes to the hitter and their setup in the box?
Yeah, not a whole lot. That's something that I need to get better at.
Well, not necessarily, and I don't want to cut you off because you have the tools that lend itself to say I don't really need to focus on that right now.
Ideally, that's the case. But the way I kind of think of it is, someday I won't.
Right.
Someday I won't have those tools. So hopefully I'll be able to figure out ways to get guys out then. So I'm paying attention to it more now. I don't exactly know what I'm seeing, but that's kind of where we're at.
What about reading the swings? Is that something that you have done in the past? Is that something you feel comfortable with doing? Is that something that you would like to do more of?
I think I'm probably as good as the next guy in terms of reading swings. That's kind of where I lean on my catchers. They've been around for longer than I have. They, can tell what hitters are thinking a little bit more than I can. So it's one of those things where I'm observing and I'm watching and learning, but I'm not there yet. I would say.
What is the one thing that Paul Skenes wants to do in 2025 to build on the incredible foundation laid in 2024?
Yeah, I think just better consistency, more consistency. Pitch usages from outing to outing are always going to change. How much I throw my sinker, my four seam, my slider, all that is going to change, and when I'm going to use it in counts is going to change from outing to outing. But using that stuff to get more consistency with those stats, I guess, to basically pitch more. I wasn't as efficient as I wanted to be last year. And that's because I wasn't as consistent as I could have been. So that's pretty much, the goal this year.
Well, I'm not calling you a liar to your face, but what you did last year, a lot of folks would be happy with, and I think that's what's the scariest thing about you, Paulie, is the determination and the drive to get better, having already sort of announced yourself with the authority that you have. I know a lot of folks are interested in how you go about your business, Paulie. I couldn't be more appreciative of you taking the time to hop into the Slab Lab with me. I thank you, my man.
No, I appreciate it. Always good to talk ball.
That's it, baby.